Welcome to the Recovery Toolkit podcast. I'm Richie. I'm going to be your host. Throughout the series, we're going to talk to a range of different people who will give you tools and tips to help manage your recovery. The podcast itself is being brought to you by Epic Restart Foundation, who are a national charity who support people to rebuild a positive life after gambling harm. So today on the podcast, I'm joined by Philip. Philip, what I'd say about you is that I've got so much admiration for how much you've thrown yourself into recovery, and you've just grasped everything that you possibly could and give it a shot. And some things have worked for you, some things potentially haven't, but you've given it a try, so thank you for joining us. Philip, what I would say about your commitment to your recovery has been inspirational, so be proud of that and give yourself a pat on the back.
Thanks, Richie.
So tell us a little bit about what got you into recovery.
Yeah, so for me, I cross-addicted, and mainly that was with food and gambling. So with my cross-addiction, that was anorexia and bulimia. And I did that for about 20 years, and I did go through OA, which is Overeaters Anonymous, so I'm familiar with the 12-step program. And then later on, which we'll probably touch upon, it then morphed into gambling, and gambling for about 7 years.
Yeah, so, and we see this a lot, cross-addictions is a real thing. The gambling, 7 years, what brought that to a head?
I'd sort of battled with my anorexia and bulimia, and then I had enough of that. And when I had sort of got into recovery for that, I then needed another outlet to regulate my emotions and regulate my feelings. So I was introduced to, when I've nitpicked it through Gordon Moody, I was introduced to gambling actually when I was a toddler through just raffle tickets, and I hadn't put that connection together until later on. And then when I was in, when my mum passed away, that's when I then was going on online casinos. I was using amusements, betting shops to play the fixed terminals, and that's what really spiraled my gambling out of control.
So would you say that your gambling became just a new coping strategy? Is it
100% Richie, yeah.
Yeah, and triggered by stopping the eating disorder?
Yeah.
And then also a little bit around the loss of your mum?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was your way of dealing with it and coping with it?
Definitely, yeah, Richie.
Yeah, so once that went on for 7 years, what made you stop?
Well, I applied to, first of all, I went to GA, and when I was in GA, I was there for a good couple of months, and I didn't feel as if it worked for me. It was the environment that I was in. A lot of the lads was betting on in-play football, or they were betting on horse racing, and with mine being casinos and primarily slot machines, I felt as if I didn't really fit in. And so I applied to Gordon Moody, and I got through the first stage, and then I bottled it, Richie. I was like, oh, my gambling problem's not that bad. I'm not going to go away. And it wasn't until later on, probably about a year and a half later, that I was like, this is really a big problem. I mean, at this point, I've probably sold my car. I'd sold my grand's wedding ring, my granddad's wedding ring, just to fund my gambling addiction. And I'd borrowed quite a lot of money, and I was in a lot of debt. And I was like, I need to sort my life out here. And so I did apply to Gordon Moody, and I had a partner at the time, and I didn't tell them. Didn't tell my dad, didn't tell my brother, didn't tell any family members that I was going for it. And I had the first assessment, and then they put us in contact with a psychiatrist because they do that assessment to make sure that you're fit and well to go. And I waited until they phoned us and give us a date for us to go into treatment. And then that's when I come clean to everybody that this is what's happening.
So you mentioned Gordon Moody. Tell us what Gordon Moody is.
Gordon Moody added the 14-week program, and basically that is you go away and you work on yourself. It's for gambling harm, and yeah, it was an amazing organisation. I'll always say that Gordon Moody gave us the tools to solve my gambling addiction, and they addressed so many issues. It was unreal. They didn't just deal with the gambling side of things. They dealt with childhood trauma, dealt with my emotional baggage, dealt with the loss of my mum. And just before I'd gone into Gordon Moody, my gran had passed away. So that was, again, another spiral of gambling that added to my gambling addiction. And so, yeah, when I went in there, I was able to grieve. I spent a full day grieving in there, which was, I think it's because I dealt with some of the chaos that had been going on in my life, and then I was able to actually grieve when I was in there.
Yeah, and I think that's important is you started to get emotions, didn't you? You started to deal with emotions.
Yeah, they were definitely turned on, Richie.
Yeah, and I think that's something that you probably avoided. And I know in my journey, feelings and emotions were just stuff I just didn't deal with and avoided. And that's why I gambled. That's why I used cocaine. That's why I used alcohol. It was just to avoid all them things. And, you know, hearing that you were given a safe space in Gordon Moody to explore all of that stuff that had gone on. You know, you've mentioned childhood, you've mentioned grief, you've mentioned, you know, changing from one addiction to another. Being able to process all that, I think that's really important, that you find that safe space, isn't it?
100%. And like I say, for me, that 14-week program was the right length of time. It took us out of my environment. It also helped us do little things like budgeting. I mean, they took your mobile phones off you. You didn't really have communication with the outside world. You had to check in your card and check it back out. And it really made us think about the value of money, because with us gambling, I'd lost that value of money. It was a means to an end, really.
Yeah, brilliant. And we support a lot of people, you know, when they come out of Gordon Moody and continuing on their journey of recovery. And it for me, it's like it's a pathway, isn't it? Like, if you go and use lots of different services at different times, you have the best opportunity. Yeah. And I think it's important that not every service tries to be the same. They're all different and all fit together. And there's a few things you mentioned in there, but you found your way. And I think that's important, is you find what works for you. You mentioned GA wasn't really your thing. You'd obviously been exposed to 12-step recovery prior in OA, but then GA just didn't work. But what you did do is, when you realised it'd gone too far again, you reached out for more help.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's massively important, I think, is people reach out for help. And if something doesn't work, reach out for something else.
Definitely.
So 14 weeks in Gordon Moody. Yeah, learned a lot about yourself.
Learned loads about myself, yeah.
Yeah, so I always think self-awareness is really important. And how did that help you understand yourself better, being in that 14-week bubble?
Well, when I was in Gordon Moody, and I laugh about this now, prior to going in there, when I was in my active addiction, I wouldn't get out of bed until after loose swimming. So that's like 1:30 in the afternoon. And then I would spend time just lying in my bed. I wasn't washed, I wasn't clean. And then I'll be back in bed by 7 o'clock. And I really didn't have a life. And when I went into Gordon Moody, the first thing that I did was like, right, I'm going to get up at 6 o'clock every day. And set my alarm, was getting up at 6 o'clock every day. And I built that into a habit and a routine. Made sure I was washed, dressed, clean. And then I started to look after myself food-wise as well. I was having 3 square meals a day. Like I say, they helped us with budgeting. And not only that, I made connections with the other guys. Again, I was a bit worried about going in at first, because it's Jack the Lad environment. But the 12 lads made us feel really, really welcome. The support staff was amazing, and if I had any issues, any problems, there was lived experience there, so I could go and talk to somebody who had lived experience. So it was a great organisation, Richie, and I learned loads about myself in the sense of self-worth, getting the confidence, getting my sense of pride back, really. And one of the support guys, funny enough, just the other day was saying, you came in as a little boy and you're now grown up and to be like a man. And that's quite nice. It's quite nice to be recognised as being an adult now, as opposed to just that shy, scared little boy who was a gambling addict.
Yeah, and I've seen that as well, Philip. I've seen through your journey. I know you're relatively early in your journey still, but the thing I admire most about you is the work that you do. And a lot of people come into recovery and just think that they can turn up to a meeting every now and again or do a couple of meetings a week. But actually sometimes just going to meetings and doing that sort of stuff is just another way of avoiding doing the work. The thing about you, Philip, I think is you've took on board what people have said and you've tried to put it into action. And that's really, really important. And that's what's got you to this position today. And life's different today.
Life's very different. It's crazy how different it is in the sense of I no longer have a partner. I'm standing on my own 2 feet. I know you've talked about it in previous podcasts. I have the Ice Guys who I'm with them every Sunday at Timemouth. I'm connecting with, they're called the Dipshits at Newbegin. So I'm connecting with people who I would never think of connecting with. And I have a really good, strong support network. So I went through treatment with quite a lot of people in Gordon Moody, but I have got 2 really good friends who we chat on a daily basis. So life is, I'm not going to say rosy because I still have me down days. I still have days where I suffer from loneliness, suffer from boredom. But on a whole, my life's on a level keel with quite exciting things happening.
Good stuff. Let's go back a few steps.
Yeah.
Leave Gordon Moody.
What
happened then?
What happened then, Richie, as I started, I come home and one of the things that they'd said is you need to change your environment. And obviously I was coming back to the same house, so I decided to decorate right the way through. But that was just really a distraction technique. I was doing anything and anything to avoid thinking about gambling. So I wasn't really, in the early stages, I wasn't really living in what I class as my recovery now. I was using distracting techniques. I signed up to an NVQ course again. That was something I wanted to do. But I was using that as a distraction from actually sitting with my emotions and sitting with now a new version of Philip that I was trying to find.
Yeah, and a lot of people go, oh, well, you're just still avoiding. But I think it's really important that you find a way in those early days, isn't it? Because sometimes the compulsion to gamble's still there, the compulsion if drink or drugs was your thing, the compulsion's still there to do stuff, isn't it? So actually the fact that you came back and thought, I'm going to distract, well, you probably didn't think I'm going to distract myself, but looking back in hindsight, that's what you were doing. But actually what you've done is you found a way just to not gamble, stay safe, create a little bit of time and give yourself the opportunity to choose what you do.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important for people in their recovery, especially when they've come out of somewhere like Gordon Moody, which is quite a safe bubble, I like to call it, where, there's restrictions and rules that you've got to apply, like going back to the real world and having to stand on your own 2 feet and deal with stuff. It's quite difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
And like you said there, your mind was purely focused on not gambling. How do I distract myself from that? How long did that go on for before there was a little bit of a
that went on for probably about 2 months, I would say, where I was just constantly looking for things to do, anything to do, just to avoid thinking about gambling. I mean, I'll touch upon the trigger. I came out of Gordon Moody, and it's not laughable, but when I look back on it nowadays, literally, I went to the petrol station and I put some petrol in my partner's car. And I was triggered by just the smell of petrol because that was a routine that I used to that I would do if we went anywhere to gamble, put in the fuel, and I was triggered. And I thought, how on earth do I say something to somebody, day one out of Gordon Moody? But yeah, like looking back on it now, it's funny, Richie.
And I think triggers are something that'll always come up, aren't they? There's always potentially something that could trigger you at any given time. It's about learning how to manage that, isn't it?
Yeah.
After your few months of avoidance techniques and stuff. What was the next step?
Next step for me was I signed up the Epic Restart Your Lives Foundation. I did that pretty much leaving Gordon Moody, and I was assigned a fantastic, what do you call it, a coach. And I remember one of the first things that we did was to create a vision board, and on that vision board I'd had, you know, some of my core values. I put on there about my family, about what I want to achieve educational wise, and I'm working through those, and I still have it in my spare bedroom now, and I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I'm actually achieving some of those things.
Yeah, so Epic Restart, you know, the Restarting Lives program that you're talking about is a 6-month support program, recovery support program for people recovering from gambling harm. You get a coach. Stacey was your coach.
Yeah,
Stacey's been on the podcast. Tell us what that process looks like. So for people that are listening and thinking, oh well, I could potentially do that. What talk us about like the process that is involved in that?
Yeah. So I was referred to Epic Restart Your Lives Foundation by Gordon Moody. So I signed up to it, and within 2 weeks I was contacted by Stacey. She told us that she was going to be my mentor and my coach, and then we had one-to-one catch-ups every week. Every week for the first, I think, 4 weeks, and then it moved to every 2 weeks. And it was really just to, one, see what I want to work on myself, and in the early stages it was to hold us accountable. So if I had said, I'm going to get up in the morning and I'm going to get washed, dressed, and just simple things when I first came out of Gordon Moody, and she held us accountable. And then we looked at goals and what I wanted to achieve and what I wanted this new Philip to look like, because I didn't know this Philip, I didn't know this newfound confident Philip. So we looked at those. Again, we had conversations about loneliness, boredom, that type of thing. And that's when I started on my vision board. That's when I started with the advice of Stacey. That's when I thought, well, I want to get back in education. I want to look at doing my NVQ. So I did my NVQ level 3 in mental health awareness. And then once I completed that, I signed up to my level 3 in counselling, which I'm busy doing now. And that was all on the back of just creating that vision board, which Stacey helped us do.
What else you got from that process, that journey that you've been on?
Well, I'll have to talk about the retreats and that as well. I can't not talk about them. They've been amazing, Richie. I did the Brad Waldron one.
Yeah, Building Better Lives.
Building Better Lives, and then I did the 1%, and then the Resilience one, and I got a lot out of all three. So with regards to the Brad Waldron one, I used to keep to-do lists, and I would never complete those to-do lists, and he taught us about planning my role. So if I was going to be an uncle, I would plan that role in. If I was going to be doing education, I would plan that role into my diary. And that worked really, really well. And then I did the 1%, and that was life-changing. I can't say that enough. That was the weekend I split up with my partner. But I also learned so much on that 1%. And the 1% is about creating 8 minutes into your day, and that's doing something different. And my 1% when I first did that was literally just having no social media for 8 minutes in the morning, sitting outside with my dog in natural sunlight. And then I grew. So I grew from that, and then I wanted to do, my 8% was then go and stand on the grass with barefoot. And I looked stupid when I first did it, and I had to be coached off Stacey to do it. She was like, just go and do it. Nobody's going to judge you. And then that then led to us buying a cold water ice bath. And I started to get in there. And then that led us to then messaging Craig, because it was Craig Tampin who inspired us to get an ice bath. And that's led to now being in the Ice Guy. So that 1% of just having a cup of coffee in a safe space, having my dog around us, has led to now us having a social network.
Yeah, and do you know, like, I sit here smiling when you're saying all them things, because like, this isn't just Philip saying, "Oh, I wish I was doing this. I wish I was doing that." This is you doing it, isn't it? This is the journey you've been on, you know. And from spending a weekend at Lily Shore with the guys there, setting that one simple thing to come away from, it's just had a ripple effect in your life, hasn't it?
Totally. And when you talk about ripple effects, it's had a ripple effect on my family as well. So my niece, I used to treat as a best mate, and I did her gambling harm in the sense of lending money. And now we have a uncle-niece relationship. With my dad, me and my dad, we've had a strained relationship in the past. But me and my dad, I see him 2, 3, 4 times a week now. And it does have that ripple effect. If I'm doing good and other members of my family can see that I'm doing good, they're more positive as well.
Yeah, and it you know, everybody talks about how gambling affects the family, but actually, and I say this all the time, recovery affects the family as well in a positive way, doesn't it? So, you know, it's like heartwarming to hear you say them things, and like, I just smile when you do it, because that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about how do I become a better version of myself, and then everything around us, you know, tends to improve as well, most of the time. But it's not easy, is it?
No.
It's hard work. It's hard work, and you've got to continually work at it. What's next?
For me, what's next is just to continue with my connections. But really, I want to complete my NVQ level 3 in counselling. And once I've done that, whether that'll lead to either doing another course at a higher level, or I would like to work in the gambling harm industry. So whether that's signing up to, I think Bet No More, they do peer aid and things like that. Just working in the gambling harm industry. I think lived experience is really beneficial for people who are going through the different programs that you can go through.
Yeah, definitely. And I think on the podcast last week, we had Jen on, and Jen spoke about her journey, and she started off as a volunteer, and now she's Deputy CEO of Recovery Connections, and she's had every job in the organisation on that journey. And I think for me, she offers hope for people like you that that's possible. You know, that if you go and do the work, you show up, you have courage, you step forward, like, who knows where it might take you. What's some of the biggest lessons you've learned about yourself in your recovery journey so far?
First of all, I have to say one of the biggest lessons is having the courage. Because, Richie, you've said this a few times, that's a cool story that you're telling us, that's a cool story. And when I was talking about going to these ice guys, I was like, I'll do it when I'm more confident. Not just procrastination. So one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is just having the courage to go up and meeting new people. And I think going through the Gordon Moody program and the Ever Restart Your Lives program, you're not forced to meet new people, but you come in contact with a lot of new people. So that does give you that little bit of a buzz and that little bit of a confidence to go out there and do it. A big lesson is, again, I've just said procrastination. I used to put things off till the last minute. And probably the biggest lesson is that I can stand on my own 2 feet and be a good son, a loving uncle, a good brother. Just having that self-worth. That's the biggest lesson that I've got out I would say the last 10 months. Self-worth?
Is that something that was lacking in your life, do you think?
Yeah. I had no self-worth, Richie. No self-worth, no self-respect for myself. If you had met us, I know you met us 6 months ago, but if you had met us sort of 10 months ago, I was just a shell. I was just numb. I was just a little boy, really.
Yeah, and you know, it is the fact that you're sitting there acknowledging that, and you have the awareness that, you know, you've moved on and you're in a better place now. But it's not easy, is it?
No, it's not.
And you've mentioned sometimes some days are still hard. Mm-hmm. Still have moments that, you know, where it isn't plain sailing. Mm-hmm. How do you get through them times?
The first thing that I have to do is get out of bed, because if I don't, I've been guilty of it probably, I would say, a handful of times since I left treatment, where I've had a bad day. Well, in the past, my bad days were every day, Richie. And now, if I'm having a bad day, I'm like, just get out of bed, go see the dog, go stand outside, and that's enough to spur us on to try new things throughout the day. Don't get us wrong, I have sofa days where I'll sit and watch telly. I'll have days where I won't see anybody, because sometimes when you're with people all the time, like if I visit my dad, my niece, my friend Graham comes around, if I'm seeing all those people, sometimes you just want to be on your toes. And that's a good thing, because on your bad days, you can sit with those emotions and you can figure out, well, actually what's going on? Why am I having a bad day?
Yeah, so you can now sit on your own, or you like being on your own. That's what I'm hearing now.
Yeah.
What was it like in active addiction?
Active addiction, it was just crazy.
Could you sit on your own then?
Nah, not without gambling. I couldn't.
Yeah.
And even when I didn't have the funds to gamble, Richie, I tried it like a full-time job. I would contact all these different companies, asking them for bonus spins, asking them for free money. So even though I was sitting by myself, I was constantly looking for the next way to get a fix.
Yeah, and the thing that you just said there, you know, sitting on my own now gives us the ability to just sit with me feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that you ran away from for so long. And like, I love hearing that from people, because it's not easy, but you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, is we recognize that it's not easy, but like you can still sit and do it. You can still sit and do it. And most importantly, you can sit and do it without feeling like you're going to run back to the gambling.
Yeah.
And that's growth. That's massive, massive growth. Philip, you really need to be proud of yourself for being able to do that. Something we always ask everybody on the podcast is, what's 3 to 5 things that are in your toolkit? So give us Philip's current toolkit that he's using at the moment.
My current toolkit. First of all is I need to be in recovery, because it's still early recovery. So I attend the ex-residence calls with Gordon Moody twice a week. I also attend the Epic on a Thursday, the coaching sessions that they have. And I do a Sunday group, which is like a recovery church online. So I need to have those in my life at the minute, because they keep us on the straight and narrow. They have an outlet where I can sort of vent, or I can talk about any issues that I've got. And also, it's great to hear other people's experiences. When I first come out of Gordon Moody, I tried everything, in the sense of I also did like other organisations. I was listening to podcasts, and I was overwhelmed with the amount of things that I was doing. So I think I've got the balance right.
Yeah, so, and it is important that you find those connections and you become part of them communities. And although you've mentioned you've finished Restarting Lives program with, you know, your one-to-one stuff, you're still an active member of Epic Restart community, aren't you? You know, and you're still showing up there, and you're still seeking the support. What's number 2?
Number 2, journaling. I do journal, not as often as I used to. I think when I first came out of Gordon Moody, I journaled every day, sometimes twice a day, and it served as well at the time. I've now started to do what I would describe as maybe doing an online journal, because I'm doing a few TikToks, I'm doing a few, posting a few things on Instagram, my Facebook, and so I'm still journaling, but just in a different format.
Yeah, good. It gets it out your head, doesn't it?
Does get it out your head, yeah.
And I think that's so important, that you just find an outlet, you find a way to get it out there. And some people like to do videos, some people like to write it down. I'm a firm believer in paper and pen. I think it's so important. But it just get it out your head, because when you get out your head and you see it, or you watch a video back, it just makes more sense, and you can actually, it increases your self-awareness of where you currently are. So therefore, you can hopefully make better choices moving forward. Number 3, mate.
Number 3 is planning. So I have a book that I plan every week of what I'm going to do, and it's called Get Your Shit Together. And literally at the beginning of the week, I will put in exactly what I'm going to do. And again, I put in my different roles. And what's mad is the plans that I make now are so different to the plans that I made in addiction. I mean, I've got a great nephew, and he's into football and stuff like that. And I had the privilege to take him to football like twice last week, and that was just, it was lush to be able to do that. And I planned my family time with my dad, my aunties. I plan obviously coming here today, and so there's things that are fixed which are like my my coaching sessions and my calls that I have. But yeah, planning's key for me, because if I don't plan, then I don't do. And we always talk about taking action. And so yeah, I have to say it for it to be real, for us to have that goal to say, yeah, today's plan is NVQ day.
Yeah, and I love that. And Mike, one of my coaches in my early days, said it was, Richie, if you don't plan high priority tasks that excite you, your day will be filled with shit.
Yeah.
And I honestly believe that, because when you don't have a plan, you just go through the motions, don't you? Mm-hmm. And then going through the motions don't really get you to where you want to be. So having a plan so you can take action helps you move forward, helps you stay on track, helps you do the things that actually put a smile on your face as well, doesn't it? And give you a better quality of life.
Yeah, yeah.
What would be next? Two more. Go on, two
You're
more.
squeezing it for another one now, Richie.
Two more.
I think my family support, my relationship, like I say, with my dad now is tenfold of what it is, and I can openly talk to him about any issues that I've got, if I've had any triggers, any urges. The relationship that I have with my friends now, I have a different circle of friends, and I'm not saying that they're better than the friends that I used to have, but I'm surrounding myself with more positive people. I don't really go out drinking anymore, because again, I don't want that to lead to ultimately gambling. So those friends that I would go out drinking with are sort of parked, and so yeah, I think just the people that I'm surrounding myself with is probably number 4.
Yeah, it's so important, isn't it? The environment, you mentioned it at the very beginning, environment that you put yourself in, the people you surround yourself with will ultimately influence.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to say it'll decide, but they'll definitely influence your actions and behaviours. So, you know, it's the fact that you're doing that and you've changed some of your circles just to have a better impact on your recovery, I think is amazing as well. And I'm going to push you for a 5th one. Go on, give us 5. See what you can come up with.
Oh, now you're thinking. You're pushing us out, Richie.
There is. And I know there is stuff in there, Philip, because I could tell you another 6 things you do, no problem. How beneficial has the ice tub been?
Oh, the ice tub. Oh, that's been really beneficial. So like I say, when I first got it, it was funny because I got up with some vouchers and I thought, if I don't use it, I don't use it. And I got in and I did like 30 seconds and I got out straight away. I was like, it's far too cold. And so I do use that. I would probably say 3 times a week, 4 times a week if I'm not at the beach. And it's good for my mind. It's good for my soul. It gives us that time to really think and be present. And one of the things that Stacey had said, and funny enough, when I was in crisis and I used a crisis team, they used to say have a bath, and I used to think, what on earth are they talking about? But it's the quickest way to change all of your senses in one go. So to change environment, change the smell, touch, temperature. And so my ice bath, I love getting in, especially when my little dog waddles along and she's trying to get up there and that. But yeah, it's good for my mind.
Yeah.
Clears my mind.
And like you said, that's also led on to you joining other organisations, Ice Guys, Dipshits. Like, I see on social media now, I'm like, God, he's loving the sea. You know, it's not just the ice tub, he's loving the sea and being in nature. And one of the other things you mentioned earlier was being outside on the grass in your bare feet. And that connection with nature is important, isn't it? Like, how does that make you feel? What do you get from that?
It makes us feel good. It makes us feel like, one, that I'm connected. And when I go in the sea, that you have no choice but to concentrate on your breathing. You have no choice but to be present in that moment, whether there's waves coming over, and not only that, I like the bit afterwards, and I like the social aspect, because I used to struggle socially, and so I like just the fact that I can go for a cup of coffee, sit down with the ice guys, and have a good chin wag just about the week, the day, what other people are up to. So it gives us so much. It really does. What might be a half an hour dip in the sea, it's like it fills in 3 hours of my day, 3-4 hours of my day.
Yeah, and time is a thing that we used to struggle with, having time on our hands, and the fact that you've got these new support networks, these new social groups, people to go for a coffee with. It's just important, isn't it? You know, new environments, new people. You know, I think the work that you've done, Philip, is admirable. I think it's inspirational. I think it offers hope for other people, you know, and the fact that you're willing to come and share it on a podcast, being, you know, where you are in your journey, I think is, you know, a sign of courage. And like you say, have the courage, and it'll hopefully give you the confidence to take the next step. So thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. And best of luck with your MVQ level 3 that you're doing and everything else that's coming your way, because I'm sure it will.
Thanks very much, Richie. Thanks for having us on, mate.
Cheers. Thanks for listening to the Recovery Toolkit podcast. If you took something positive from it, then why not subscribe? If you or somebody you know has been suffering gambling-related harm, why not head over to our website where you can join our community? The link is in the show notes.